Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is everything I could have possibly wanted it to be as a revival of classic JRPGs and the Suikoden series. However, that means for a lot of you, it may actually not be something that you would enjoy. We're going to talk about why. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, my coverage of JRPGs, strategy RPGs, or the gaming sphere in general, a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So what is the topic of the day today? Today, of course, we're talking about Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes and my first impressions of it after about 6 hours of progress through the game and probably around 10-12 hours of time with the game in total. I was very fortunate as to get access to the game early, courtesy of Rabbit and Bear Studios, the game's developers, as well as 505 Games, their publisher. Thank you very much for the early access key. And I mean, I have to say, I'm kind of a huge fan of what they have going on here. If you didn't know, the Suikoden series is a classic series of JRPGs that started on the PS1 and spanned through the era of the PS2 with 5 different main series games as well as some spin-offs, and are one of the best and also most underrated series of JRPG from that era. Obviously, there's a ton of classics from that time, the pinnacle of which being commonly known as Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy, obviously. However, the Suikoden series has a lot going for it that a lot of people, I think, would enjoy, but just have missed out on. The political storytelling, the world building, the vast cast of characters. There's a reason it's called 100 Heroes when we come to Eiyuden, things like that, that have shaped a lot of what people expect from JRPGs, but that have not had as much of an impact on the overall genre as I feel like they should have. But what's nice is now we have Eiyuden Chronicle, the spiritual successor to the Suikoden series, and very, very much a successor of that era of JRPG. And again, as I mentioned in the intro, that might put some people off, but for me, who's a fan of that era, absolutely adore it. This is, of course, the brainchild of one Yoshitaka Murayama, may he rest in peace. He's the creator of the original Suikoden series, and he did unfortunately pass away a couple of months ago, just prior to the release of Eiyuden Chronicle. But he is, in my mind, one of the most visionary creators from that era of JRPGs. His perspectives on the journey rather than the destination and the importance of the people that you meet along the way shaped the overall atmosphere of the Suikoden series in a way that I feel a lot of other games don't. And I'm extremely happy to say that even just in my very brief time with the game thus far, as of the time of this recording, that spirit has been recaptured amazingly. So what is the idea behind Eiyuden Chronicle? It is, again, a very classically styled JRPG. You start off as a mercenary who left home, looking for something to do, looking to carve his name in the history of the world, and immediately run into a very colorful cast of characters. Wolfmen, very, shall we say, abrasive yet upbeat brawlers, cool swordswomen, and things like that, as you're given your first task to go out into the world alongside some erstwhile allies from the Empire to find a mysterious artifact. All the types of things that you would expect. You enter very basic dungeons, explore around, get some banter with the party, and begin to learn about the world around you as the game's systems are explained to you. You've got save points, you've got linear dungeons, random encounters, turn-based combat, a lot of things that people in the modern era of gaming might not find too appealing. But for those of us who are maybe a little bit older or who are fans of that older style of game, this is a godsend. This is the thing we've been looking for so many years. The idea behind Eiyuden is that Rabbit and Bear and Mr. Murayama wanted to bring back that era because they see value in it. And I would agree, there is value in it. First off, let's talk about how combat in Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is actually tough and actually wants you to think a little bit before you just spam A through all of your basic attacks. You're not held by the hand, led by the nose through everything that the game wants you to learn. You're set on a linear path, yes, but there's plenty of things that aren't explained. What's the importance of the different weapon ranges of your characters? Why does everyone have a weapon level? What different affinities do they have? What are the different effects of the different attack types that they have? All of these things are maybe hinted at, but overall left for you as the player to discover as you traverse your way through dungeons and deal with random encounters. And random encounters, there are aplenty. It is perhaps one of the biggest critiques of the game that I have, that there are not as many and as frequent as perhaps as aggressive random encounters as there are in older, maybe more classic style JRPGs, but they are still there, and they are your opportunity to learn about how your characters perform and what they're able to handle. Enemies deal a lot of damage. You deal a lot of damage in turn, but it's not uncommon for a normal generic enemy that you encounter in a random battle to deal over half of your HP or more in combat, and it makes you actually care about the stats of your characters, the stats of your party, what items you have available to you, etc. Like, if you're not careful, people can get downed very easily, especially early on in the game, so you need to pay attention to what the attack order of you and your enemies is, when different characters are going to take their actions, how much damage you're going to deal, how much damage you can expect any given character to deal or take, things like that. You have to actually pay attention, and the game isn't going to lay that out for you, and I very much appreciate that. The next thing I want to talk about is the overall feeling of Eiyuden Chronicle, because it might be very jarring for folks who've not played a more classically designed JRPG, potentially in a long time, if not ever, based on how old you are and how long you've been gaming. The gameplay feel is very classic, as I would say. If you're a fan of the PS1, the PS2 era, you'll know exactly what you're getting into here, but if you're not, it might be a little bit of a shock. Save points are limited. Random encounters are, they're common, but maybe not as common as they were back in the day. And there are plenty of mechanics that aren't explained to you, and you are expected to learn them based on your own experimentation, which personally, I love. As you progress through dungeons and explore, combat bosses, generic enemies, you'll learn a lot more about the game world through experience than through necessarily very blunt force tutorialization and explanation, as many modern games are prone to doing. And I enjoy that. I like the learning process. I like the ability to discover things for yourself and actually learn what it is that the game has on offer that it wants you to know, but is letting you discover for yourself. Because I feel in that discovery process, you gain a much better appreciation for what the game, and as such the people behind it, have on offer for you and want you to experience. And I think that's a very important facet of these older style of games that has been lost in the modern era in many ways. Of course, there's not just the gameplay stylings that you have to contend with here. There's a lot to learn about your companions, the way they interact with one another, what types of relationships they might develop, and in gameplay terms, what different types of combos they might have with one another. Because while, of course, different characters have different types of magic, damage types, weapon ranges, and the like, different stats, tanks, damage dealers, mages, etc., there's also something to be said for who interacts the best with who, because that can lead to hero combos, in-combat abilities that you're able to use that are very powerful to attack single enemies, groups of enemies, inflict status effects, etc., and that are going to cause you to want different party members together and maybe separate other party members. After all, the whole point of Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes and the Suikoden series is that you have a vast array of characters available to you, far more than most other JRPGs. While you might expect to have anywhere from 4 to 10, maybe even 15 different party members that you can swap between in other JRPGs, here you have far, far more. As the name implies, potentially upwards of 100? Obviously, I have not played far enough in the game to see exactly how many characters are available to you, but I've heard that there's anywhere from 100 to 120 characters that you can recruit, and the majority of which you will be able to add to your 6 to 9 member party. This is the hallmark of these games. There are so many unique characters. And when I say unique, I mean unique. Different sprites, different attack types, different animations, different elemental affinities, different stats that you can mix and match to craft your perfect party for any given situation. Oftentimes, as mentioned, they will have combo attacks together, and very often they will have different types of magic and skills that they can utilize for you to be able to build out a party that has a complementary set of skills that's still able to deal with the situation that you find yourself trying to handle. And that is so cool. After all, one of the most interesting parts of any RPG or JRPG, Western, Eastern, whatever, is finding new party members. What do you have to contribute to the team? What is your personality type? What's your story? What abilities do you have? Do you have different elemental affinities? Can you cast different magic? Do you have a particularly useful weapon? Are you able to equip different types of skills? What are you going to contribute to my party? And in most games, you're only going to experience that maybe 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 or 12 times throughout the whole game, right? In Eiyuden and the Suikoden series, that is an experience that you are going to have throughout the entire run of the game. And that, more than anything else, is what makes these games so magical for me. Any new village, any new area, anytime you progress in the story and go back to an old area, an old village, town, city, dungeon, there is the possibility that you're going to encounter a character with a completely unique personality, a completely unique skill set, who might either join you on the spot or who's going to have a task for you to engage in to be able to go complete it, come back, and then recruit this individual to your party. This is going to happen right up until the final dungeon of the game, if my experience with the Suikoden series has any impact on what Eiyuden is doing, and I believe that it will. And that is where the magic lies. Always finding new tools for your toolbox. Always finding new story threads, side quests, voices and personalities to keep things fresh, to keep things interesting, cycling through new characters, to find the most interesting or most personally engaging stories and characters and mechanics that you can find for you in this vast title. That is what's so cool. There's nothing worse than running up on a JRPG or an RPG and finding that half of the cast just doesn't resonate with you. You're not interested in their stories, maybe you don't like their voice acting or their design or their mechanics, and then you feel very limited to the other characters who don't bother you, let alone who you are engaged with. In Eiyuden and Suikoden, not something that you have to worry about, I promise you. There are so many cool characters that you can engage with who have such fun personalities. For example, just in the first 5 hours, without getting into anything too spoilery in terms of the main story, we have already found 2 of what I believe are going to be my favorite characters in the game. Yusuke, who is a very classic, like, bancho bandit, or as he'll say, desperado type character who's rough and tumble but has a heart of gold and is absolutely going to give anyone and everyone attitude who he comes across in what is otherwise a fairly standard fantasy setting up to this point. He's got his pink trench coat, his mohawk, he's going to stick his hands in his pockets, and he's going to kick the absolute hell of whatever comes across his way, and he's awesome. He's fun. He cares about the fact that you see him for a good person despite his rough and tumble exterior, and that's why he joins up. It's such a refreshing perspective. And then you meet Francesca, the party healer, the party cleric. Cute, demure, red hair, what you would imagine as a very archetypical JRPG waifu cleric character. Except for when you first interact with her, you don't even see her sprite yet, and you hear her screaming at and threatening a group of ne'er-do-wells with what is, for an overall tame experience, some very threatening terminology and implication, shall we say, as well as the voice acting, which is hysterically phenomenal. We'll talk about that in a second. Then you walk up and you just see this demure character. You're like, okay, where's the mad woman who was just screaming all those obscenities at people? And then you find out, oh, this is her. This is she, who I am currently talking to. And not only does she have that personality, but it's backed up in gameplay, as she is one of, if not the highest physical damage characters you can recruit at that point in the game, and she will beat the living hell out of people with her staff. It is so much fun. The devs had such a good time, clearly, developing these characters and putting so much personality into them for you to enjoy, which is great. Beyond the classic style JRPG gameplay trappings and extremely passionately crafted characters, I do want to talk about some of the other aspects of the game as well here, because I do think they are important. Visually, the game is beautiful. I've had some people in my stream and in my comments say that it looks bland or uninspired, but I truly don't understand that perspective. Like, if you're someone who exclusively cares about intense photorealistic graphics, I can see why maybe Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes wouldn't resonate with you, but that is a matter of personal taste exclusively. For someone who cares about vibrant colors, exquisitely crafted 2D or 3D pixel art characters or graphics and backgrounds, Eiyuden is like top of the top, man. I've played Octopath Traveler, I've played Triangle Strategy, I've played Tactics Ogre Reborn, and so many other games that want to feel modern while also capturing that classic style, and they do well in varying degrees, but Eiyuden Chronicle hits a different level for me. The meshing of 2D character sprites with 3D backgrounds, beautifully animated attacks, character sprite reactions, conversational sprite changes, and overall boss designs and enemy designs is very impressive. Like, I have to say, I was initially very concerned in the initial pre-release period where we saw that it was only the characters that you could recruit who had the beautifully crafted 2D sprite experience, whereas the background and the enemies that you were fighting were all 3D animated. But playing the game for myself, seeing these things in motion and seeing the way characters interact with the world, all of those fears were immediately put aside. The world is beautiful, and there really is nowhere near as jarring of a conflict between the 2D and the 3D animation as I expected there to be. It feels really, really good to navigate and explore, while still feeling very much like a classic game. Like, for example, I just recently played Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster for the first time ever. That is the only time I've ever played Final Fantasy VI. And it obviously, despite being the Pixel Remaster, was a very classic feeling experience. And yet, comparing that to Eiyuden Chronicle, they feel extremely similar, despite one being essentially a visual overhaul of a game from decades ago, and the other being a modern, fully crafted from the ground up current generation game, and yet they feel the same. And that's the most incredible thing about Eiyuden. From the ground up, it does feel like a game that was crafted 20 years ago and just brought into the modern era. And obviously, as someone who started playing games 20, 30 years ago, that feels incredible to me. As far as things like the OST and voice acting are concerned, I also have no notes. The OST is beautiful. The overworld themes, the combat themes, the intro music, my god! I haven't felt so pumped up for the start of a game in a long time, and I was driven to tears by the intro of Unicorn Overlord. And yet Eiyuden Chronicle just hits in a way that touches my soul, my nostalgia, in a way that I really was not expecting. You can feel that there are people who have their roots in an era of gaming that is now long gone, who crafted these OSTs, and it is beautiful. The voice acting, in turn, is actually extremely strong. I was initially very skeptical of the English voice acting from what we had seen in the pre-release material, but I chose to start with it in my time with the game because, you know, there's a lot of dialogue to read, and I didn't think that I'd be able to do the characters as much justice as, you know, if I tried to voice them all myself in the terms of my gameplay, my let's play, what have you. So I left the English voices on. And they're actually really good.
Don't make me go over there and break you, you gropey little pasty-faced, pigeon-licking, garbage-breath punks! Go fall off the mother-forsaken map, yeah?
The misgivings of one man are not reason enough to besmirch the good name of a noble house.
Is that so? Well, if the time comes, I guess I'll...
What was that?
Big in a big way! What kind of question is that? The name's Yusuke. You're looking at one of the world's future titans. We're gonna make waves together, boss. I just know it.
There is so much personality and character injected into every single NPC or party member that you find that I was actually laughing my ass off for so many lines. It is so good. There is a level of passion and humor here that I really did not expect, and I can only hope that that carries forward through the rest of the characters throughout the rest of the game. Again, I have to bring up Francesca the Cleric here. Her VA, who I don't know the name of, unfortunately. I haven't seen a list of the VAs yet, and in my initial research, I haven't found one for Francesca, so apologies if it's come up since I recorded this and published it. She was having, clearly, so much fun acting out what is clearly like a degenerate gang member of a woman who just happens to be dressed in the vigil of a woman of the cloth, that I could not help but immediately fall in love with the character. And that's how everyone feels. Even annoying characters who are clearly designed to be annoying, like initial party member and brawler Leanne, are compelling and just magnetic in their personalities because of the passion put into their English VA. And some people won't like it, and that's fine. There's Japanese VA for you, and I'm sure that's also just as good. But I was very impressed by the English VA for this game. Now, one of the biggest issues that I have heard about, unfortunately, is the performance differences between different platforms. For full context, I have been playing and you've been seeing my footage from the Steam version of the game. And this is an early access version of the game that I've been told and others have been told does need to be patched on release day, which will be the 23rd, tomorrow if you're watching this video on the day of release, where there will be patches to address performance issues and bugs and the like. However, even despite that, the Steam version of the game has been performing excellently. Smooth frame rates, beautiful graphics, no bugs, no crashes, no slowdowns whatsoever. Now, that is the only version of the game that I have played. I have gotten reports from other people, largely viewers and community members on the channel, who have played or seen people play other versions of the game that have had major issues in terms of performance, largely on the Switch and on the PS4 versions of the game. The Switch and PS4 versions apparently have a lot of poor load times, like severely long load times, as well as graphical glitches, crashes, etc. This is secondhand. I cannot confirm this for myself. Do your own research if you plan to buy on those platforms. That is just what I've heard, but I wanted to make sure that that was something that you all knew. If you wish to play on Steam or supposedly on PS5, I've heard the PS5 version performs perfectly well, and I can attest from personal experience that the Steam version also plays perfectly even before the day one patch. So do with that information what you will. The game has been getting poor reviews on some of those older, lower gen systems. As a result, that's why. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't have anything to do with the gameplay or the characters or anything like that. It is purely a performance issue. So keep that in mind before you buy. I wanted to put that out there. As far as the story is concerned, it is simple but effective. You have two major factions at play from what I have seen thus far, the League and the Empire. The Empire clearly has nefarious evil forces at work that you can perfectly imagine are going to be the primary antagonist force based on what we've seen thus far in the game. Where things are going to progress from there is anyone's guess. It's basic, but it works. And again, it kind of leans into that idea that Murayama and Rabbit and Bear have, that it's about the journey, not the destination. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day what the motivating factor is behind the journey that you're going on. So long as you, the player, and your character avatar in Noah and Sane and one other character who I have not actually met yet, but there's three major protagonists. So long as you have a good motivating reason to be on the journey that you're on, and then interact with a number of interesting, charismatic, and compelling characters for one reason or another along the way that cause you to have a good journey, then they've done their job. They have made your journey successful. And from everything that I've seen thus far in Eiyuden Chronicle, they have absolutely achieved that goal. Could things change as I play more? Absolutely. I don't know where the story goes here, but from what I've seen of reviews and commentary from those who had the game earlier than myself and who've been able to progress further than I have, the game does not just maintain but exceed the expectations that I have seen and what have been set for me in the first 5 to 10-ish hours of the game. And that makes me very happy. Yes, it is an old school style. If you're used to more action-based combat systems, you may be disappointed. If you're used to having more freedom of saves or more in-depth dungeons or things like that, you may be disappointed. But I promise you, if you are not used to such things and you can look past them, it feels like there is definitely going to be a depth of character interaction and building here that will be compelling to you. And if you are, like myself, a fan of that older school dare I say, as my beard and my hair graze before my very eyes, that more classic style of game that we all grew up with. If you're a fan of that, I think you are absolutely going to find something in Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes that has been missing for many years in the overall gaming landscape. It is a beautifully crafted title with so much passion behind it, and clearly there's a lot of positivity and confidence behind the game because they're already planning and working on a sequel based off of Mr. Murayama's notes and discussions with the dev team. I can't wait to see what else this team does. I cannot wait to play more of Eiyuden Chronicle and see what else it has in store. I'm extremely positive about this title, and I do plan on doing a full review of it once I'm able to beat the game. If you yourself are playing Eiyuden Chronicle, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Also, if you are interested in seeing more of this on the channel, I am currently trying to figure out how I want to approach it. I did one stream of the game as of this recording last night that performed very, very well. I was actually a lot more interested in it than I expected, and I would be happy to continue streaming the game on the channel if that is something that you all would be interested in. If there's less interest, don't worry, I do still plan to continue covering the game. I have a bunch of video topics in mind that I do want to do, and I have a second channel set up wherein I will be doing a full Let's Play of the game if I do not wind up streaming it here on the channel. So, if you want to see streams here on the main channel, let me know that in the comments. If you would prefer to see a more recorded, edited style Let's Play, let me know that as well. Or if you don't really mind and you just want to see more of the game in general, let me know that too. That'll help me figure out what it is that I'm doing in terms of content here on the channel. But whatever you might want to see, just know I do want to see more of and play more of Eiyuden here somewhere within my little wheelhouse on YouTube. With that said, that is all I have to say about Eiyuden Chronicle here today. Once again, thank you to Rabbit and Bear as well as 505 Games for the early access to Eiyuden Chronicle. I do very much appreciate it. And also, I'm a little bit behind this week in terms of thanking my supporters, my patrons, and my YouTube members, so we're going to go ahead and do that here. From Patreon, thank you so very much to Chris Hackett, Matthew Tipping, Karen Gray, Dalton Robertson, Davis Beta, Andy, Pika3245, Spatial Barley 55, Heartland, T-Force G, Kevin Kurz, Mateo Kovacic, Thought Spasm, Vantruss, Skeleton 2, Guts of Rivia, Renee Pinot, Izzy, Momo Cruz, Mayo, Greg Reinhardt, X13, Ashbourne, Holly, Lightning Fang, Jim Hamilton, True Mayhem, Tagian, Gryffindor, Abigail, Light B, Zachary Tincher, Darius, Ryok Olivier, Jonathan Conley, Connor B, Faytail, Stella Stallion, Firestorm 44-7, Riley Thatcher, Yoking Haddock 67, Chris Muller, Christian Soto, Kejo, Navi, 18C, Caffeine System. Thank you all so very much from the bottom of my heart. You guys truly do make this whole thing possible in a way that I don't think people really understand. Having that direct support from Patreon and from YouTube members really does make things so much easier. And speaking of my YouTube members, thank you all so much to Icy1025, Nerdy by Example, Star Phoenix, Xavier Parker, Dex K, Joseph Tulliver, Izzy, PBFGC, shall we say, Dictionary, Caffeine System, Captain Dimitri, Pristinely Ungifted 1, The Great Raijin, AVQ, Conrad, Say, Erisp Matt, Julima 5, Ming Wei, Nerufa, Autonova, Fabio, German, Lucy Dracor, Andrew Hovanek, Crad Hunter, Nepping Nep, Louis Eduardo Victoria, Zargento Channel, NordVPN, Zoltor Ortegas, Harry Back, Karnak Ketrel, D Vaz, Silver Dew, Myriad, El Benny, Ryan Casey, Pop-Up T, David Vides, Almir Conejo, Matthew Tipping, Bluesy, Maria, Berto, Aaron Pitts, Brunt89, Jack J, Skizulander, Alcat Emerpis, Super Blue, Smile Company, Edward Mosqueda, Jose Pineda Merced, Ethan Holmes, Heartland, DA, Kai Zero, Mark Rhodes, Rasselak, 20IQ, Game and Train, Rena, Habak, Grim Tidings, Renee, Special Barley 55, or Spatial Barley 55, I should say, Retsu, Rock the Pudge, Joshua, Lost Knight, The Game Reaper, Segno, X13, Dre, Michael Poole, RJD, Matthew Snyder, Midday Moonlight, Lightbee, Captain Planet, John Eaton, King Tony, Matthew Berry, Tenchi, Luxor, Tojo Jr., and Canadian animator Guy. Thank you all so very much. This is something we do once a week where we shout out all of the direct supporters of the channel. I appreciate each and every one of you. And again, if you enjoy what I do and you want to support the channel, links to both my YouTube membership page and my Patreon are in the description down below. Go play Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Check it out. I highly recommend it. I absolutely plan on playing more. And if you are someone who is either interested in classic JRPGs or, like myself, are someone who grew up with those games and are looking for a new, modern experience that respects that classic era of greatness, I think this one is going to be for you. With that said, my name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.